participants. I, Anshmi Malu, student of 5th year, welcome you all on behalf of United World School of Law, Kanati University to the last day of IP Awareness Week. I hope this IP Awareness Week has been a great experience for all the participants. Thank you, Professor Shutsa, for organizing this IP Awareness Week, for addressing the students, and to welcome our guest speaker. Now, I would like to invite Professor Shut Brahmbhatt, Assistant Professor. Please, sir.
Yes. Thank you so much, Anshumi, for inviting me. Well, it's the moment of proud for me to welcome and introduce you all with student and, of course, an alumni of United World School of the batch 2015 and 20. I'm very glad to see him next to me and addressing you all. Now, with you, Mr. David Mehta. He's advocate now, enrolled and practicing.
I think Shruth sir is facing some network issues.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll invite Dr. Shruti Chaudhary, the Assistant Director of KU Alumni Relations, to address you all and welcome Advocate Divij Mehta. Please, ma'am.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Anshumani, for giving me this chance. And I'm really generous for all your word. A very good evening to everyone and welcome Divij. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe wherever you are. I, Dr. Shruti Chaudhary, Director Alumni Relation, welcome you all once again for this event, IP Awareness Week. It gives me immense pleasure to share that today our speaker is none other than our alumni, Advocate Divij Mehta. Few lines about Advocate Divij Mehta. Actually, Advocate Divij Mehta vision is to become a very, revolutionary lawyer. He believes in bringing changes for betterment in the society and in laws. He completely believes in serving the underprivileged people. The best thing about him is he is a constant learner, which leading him for perfection. And my dear student, we all believe that, even you also agree with me that for constant, learning is very important if we are looking forward for the perfection. Advocate Divij Mehta graduated in 2020 with a bachelor degree in LLB from the United World School of Law. Currently, he is practicing at the Gujarat High Court. He is a trademark attorney and a partner at his father law firm, S.T. Mehta and Associate. He is practicing majorly on the civil side, covering subjects such as banking and financial law, company law, property law, title opinion, intellectual properties law. His inclination is toward intellectual property laws and he is willing to contribute to his future development and practice. As a student, he was an active member and joint secretary of the Karnavati student governing body. And maybe among you, few student is also the part of that student governing body and can understand the responsibility you all are taking care of. Right? He is a person with a diverse experience. And now I would like to invite our young influencer, none other than Advocate Divij Mehta, to share his views on the topic trademarks, rights, protections, and challenges. My dear audience, please, with a huge round of virtual applause, welcome our today's guest, Advocate Divij Mehta. Over to you, Divij. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shruti ma'am, for getting me such a good introduction. And I was very pleased to hear such generous words from you. Without wasting a minute, I'll just share my screen so that I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation for our young learners. So I'll just share it. So trademarks, rights, protection, and challenges. The first question which I pose to myself is, what is a trademark? A trademark is a sign, word, symbol, or combination of all of it, which is capable of distinguishing my goods from the others. It is a function. Its function is to as a source identifier. It represents a particular business, and when a business is not working, or it is in a sleeping position, when the proprietor is not working, still the mark which is used by the business is into the action. So that is a very uh, a huge stake is attached to such mark, and so it is very important to see all the definitions which the Trademarks Act provides for a better comprehensive understanding of the subject. uh, what is a mark? Section 2M defines a mark. A mark includes a device, brand, heading, label, ticket, name, signature, word, letter, numeral, shape of goods, packaging, or combination of colors, or any combination thereof. So for a mark to be distinctive from the other marks, it is very important for a mark to be a distinctive and a combination of all of it. Otherwise, it is very difficult for a mark to get a registration, uh, to have an exclusive right over the same. Moving forward, what is a trademark? Trademark means a mark capable of being represented graphically and which is capable of distinguishing the goods or services of one person from of those others, and may include shape of goods, their packaging, and combination of colors. There is a very slight bit of difference where it is a good mark and where there is a well-known mark. A mark can be classified as a well-known mark when it has gained a very substantial amount of reputation and goodwill in the market, so that any person would see a particular mark as a well-known mark. If a particular mark is into a particular segment of goods or services, and if I am a impugner and I bring my product by bringing in a deceptively similar mark to that of the well-known mark, a person may associate my mark to be in association with the well-known mark. So that capability is attached with the well-known mark, and hence there is a very huge stake of money and time invested in the well-known mark. So it is very important for a trademark registry, for the courts to protect the well-known mark at the utmost level. Moving forward, there are various types of trademarks. First is there is service mark, collective marks, certification trademark, well-known mark, internet domain marks. Now we'll quickly move on to relevant sections of the Act. The first and foremost important section of the Act is regarding the registrability of a trademark. The section 9 provides for absolute grounds of refusal, wherein the registrar is given an absolute power to refuse my mark on basis of certain grounds which are provided under section 9. First is a non-distinctive mark. If my mark is not distinctive from the others, I would not be capable of getting a protection under trademarks law. Further, it is that my mark is designated to the kind, quality, intended purpose, values, or geographical origin, which means that my mark is representing the designated kind or quality or purpose for which my products or goods or services are being supplied in the market. So it is having a very weak level of protection. Further, the marks which have become a customary in the current language or bona fide. So a customary mark cannot be claimed as a monopoly by a particular person, because it is a customary law and it has been used since long period of time in a particular class of people. So customary mark cannot be have a proprietary kind of definition to that particular mark. Further, if a mark hurts a religious or scandalous or obscene matter, that does not deserve to be a registration. But there is an exception to this. A registry cannot reject my application if I am a well-known trademark and I have gained a substantial distinctiveness in the market by constant promotional, and the customer base is very large, and by that reason I may not be rejected from my mark being registered. Moving forward, this is a basic chart wherein the degree of distinctiveness can be seen. The first is the very weakest source of uh, distinctiveness, wherein the registration is almost incapable of being registered. That is Xerox. Xerox is a very uh, base of class of particular thing where Xerox is that cannot be registered as a monopoly. That is a class of product. Further, a descriptive mark. Descriptive mark is something which describes a particular product. That is, here we can see that Singapore Airlines. It is very pertinent to note that we can figure out that Singapore Airlines is a airline company. Cafe Coffee Day is a coffee shop. So these marks are having a weak level of registrability. Although the well-known mark is having the quality of being registered, even though it is a descriptive mark. Section 11 gives a relative grounds of refusal, wherein a registrar is having a limited power to the extent of its registrability. And here, the marks is at the first instance is that the mark being identical or similar, and the goods or services into which it is also identical. That is a ground of refusal. Further, a mark could be identical or similar, and the goods or services could be different. That could be a well-known mark. But likelihood of confusion or deception is a very necessary thing, which under this section, registrar is having a limited power for that. And it is the registrability can be challenged by a person who is already in the market existing on the registry, if he is having a prior application of trademark or he is registered mark. That those two marks can only be uh, has only the right to object or to oppose such application, and registrar may not interfere in those matters. This is a limited section for the registrar. Now, how could we determine a mark to be a well-known mark? Section 11 subclause 6 provides for that. The knowledge or recognition of a mark in a relevant market as a result of its promotions, duration, extent, and geographical area, number of actual potentials, number of actual or potential customers, number of people involved in the channels of distribution, business circles dealing with the goods or services. These are the various grounds where a particular mark can be classified as a well-known mark. Now, for my mark to be a well-known mark, it is very important that for getting that tag of a well-known mark, I need to have authority wherein I apply for my mark to be declared as a well-known mark to the registry. And if at all the registry deems fit, he would certify me to be a well-known mark. Furthermore, there are one more ways wherein which I can be classified as a well-known mark by a court's order. If I had a proceedings in a court and I am classified as a well-known mark in the course of proceedings and evidences are reduced, and if the court is satisfied that my mark should be termed as a well-known mark at a public at large, it may declare so. Now, section 18 to 23 deals with various procedures for registration. It is a very deep applicability, and because of the paucity of time, I may not read each of the sections for the procedure, but I will give a brief of the registrability procedure at the end of my lecture. Now, what are the rights available to a registered proprietor? This part is very important to understand. Now, section 27 provides for an action of passing off, which means passing off is a right given to an unregistered trademark, wherein it is a common law right, where my goodwill is detrimental, is not the other party is not using my mark detrimental to my reputation, and with a malified intention to reap out my profits, in that case I can claim a passing off over that mark. So section 27 provides that there can be no action of infringement of an unregistered trademark, but there can always be an action for passing off, and I can claim damages over it. Now section 28 provides for the rights conferred upon the registered proprietor upon registering a trademark. So there is exclusivity of mark. It depends on the application, what kind of application, what it is. Is it a word mark, is it a label mark, what is the form of registration? That depends upon certain factors. Now section 29 is very important to be looked upon, wherein several grounds of infringement of a registered trademark are discussed. The first is the identical to the registered trademark and similarity of goods similar to the registered trademark, and identical or similarity in the goods or services being involved. And the third case is identical to the registered trademark and identical to the goods or services which is it into. So here the act specifically stipulates that in the third case, the court shall presume that when the impugned mark is a registered impugned mark is identical to the registered trademark, and it is also having an identical goods and services, then the court shall presume that there would be a likelihood of confusion, and an injunction in favor of the plaintiff should be granted. Further, section 29 subclause 4 states that if a registered trademark is identical with or similar to the registered trademark, or and even though here the case is this wise, that the goods or services are not similar to the registered trademark, but the registered trademark being a well-known mark should be given protection even though the other mark is not into my goods or services. So extra protection is given to a well-known trademark in this particular subclause. Now, there are several other grounds as well. Use of registered trademark by his name or part of his name, or a business concern, or goods in the services in use. If I am using a particular mark of a registered trademark into my as my trade name, or a part of it, or a business concern, or into my goods or services, upon the packages, upon the labels, then I am liable for infringement. Now, moving forward, section 30 limits the extent of the registration of a registered trademark. To what extent, if I am a registered proprietor, to what extent I can claim exclusivity? That is what section 30 states. Section 30 states that if a particular person is using a mark in honest practices of trade and it is not detrimental to the reputation of a registered mark, then I am free from an action of infringement. If the registered mark is subject to certain restrictions or limitations in the registration, so at the inception of a application of registered trademark, there were certain restrictions or limitations imposed by the registrar or by the applicant himself. So that mark would be protected to that extent, only to that extent, and not beyond that. So that is a restriction. Further, if I am into the channel of distribution, and if I am a permitted user of a particular trademark or a good in the course of trade, then I cannot be held liable for infringement of that particular mark. And if it is into the market, and the owner of the proprietor of the trademark itself is an implied consent that the registered mark would be used in the course of trade, and that is not an infringement. That is what section 30 stipulates. Remedies upon infringement. Now this is very important. When an infringement suit is to be filed, section 134 provides for the jurisdiction of district courts or any court higher, but not lower to district court, for a infringement suit to lie. And there are certain situations wherein an institution of infringement could be brought into. The first is infringement of registered trademark. Second is relating to any right in a registered trademark. And third is of passing off. Now, Section 135 provides what all reliefs we can claim in that particular suit. The first is a injunction, a decree of injunction, wherein a temporary ad interim ex parte injunction could be claimed by the plaintiff, and a perpetual decree. Further damages and accounts of profit, along with the delivery of infringing labels, packages for destruction or erasure. So these are certain remedies given to registered proprietor in the action of infringement. Now I'll quickly move on to certain case laws, wherein this was a particular case law wherein domain name versus trademark was under a challenge. Yahoo versus Akash Arora. Herein, the plaintiff is a registered trademark and having a very wide amount of reputation all across the globe and using its trademark Yahoo. And the defendant was using a domain name yahooindia.com. The senior counsel, Mr. Kapil Sibal, appeared on behalf of Yahoo and vehemently argued on behalf of the reputation and the secondary meaning of the plaintiff's trademark, and an injunction was granted in favor of the plaintiff. Similar view was evaluated in this particular case, wherein the domain name was considered to be a very important source of representation, and it should be leveled to the trademark at large. And domain name is entitled as a trademark to be protected. Now, there was a very interesting case in Delhi High Court wherein GoDaddy was impleaded as party to the proceedings, and it was claimed that GoDaddy is promoting deceptively similar usage of domain names, wherein it gives a lots and lots of variety of domain names to be applied easily, and any person can get a particular domain name. But the court observed that GoDaddy was only merely an intermediary to such approach, and the final authority of deciding what domain names should be applied and should be on the web portal was given to ICANN, that is Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers. It is a global organization, and it continuously works along with WIPO, that is World Intellectual Property Organization, for development of and registrability of domain names. Further, there are certain judicial principles which is very important for understanding the trademark law as a whole. I'll quickly go through certain ratios. In Ishi Khosla versus Anil Agarwal, to acquire secondary meaning, it is not necessary that a product is in market for a number of years. If a new idea is fascinating and appeals to customers, it can become a hit overnight. By deciding this ratio, I'll give you an example which is in subsequent slides. There is another subsequent case wherein this ratio was applied. Further, in Cadila Healthcare versus Cadila Pharmaceuticals, it is important that marks must be compared as a whole. It would not be right that a particular mark would be differentiated or distincted from as a whole to separate portions, so that to classify its registrability, or if at all there is an infringement or not. So a mark should be always considered as a whole and not in parts. Similar view was expressed in Saraf Dichem, this is SM Dichem versus Cadbury Limited, and in corn products refining versus Shangri-La Foods. Similar views were expressed. I'll just quickly move on to this particular judgment, wherein Justice Chagla and Justice Bhagwati was very much referred to what is likely to deceive and cause confusion. and as to what could be said to have a infringing mark. And the question was, I just read the ratio so that it is very important to hear it sparingly to understand the entire concept behind this ratio. Now, in dealing whether a particular trademark is likely to deceive or cause confusion, it is not sufficient merely to compare it with the trademark which is already registered and whose proprietor is offering opposition in the registration of former trademark. What is important is to find out what is distinguishing or essential feature of a trademark and already registered, and what is the main feature and main idea underlying the trademark. And if it is found that trademark whose registration is sought contains the same distinguishing or essential feature or conveys the same idea, then ordinarily the registrar would be right if he came to a conclusion that the trademark should not be registered. The essential element in the registered trademark should always be seen to classify a registrability or an action of infringement against another impugned mark. Now I have showcased certain descriptive labels and images wherein you can easily see as to the infringing marks. Here, Parle Agro filed a suit against for infringement of trademark in Delhi in Bombay High Court, wherein the defendant were injuncted from using similar trade dress, which is very evident on the screen. Similarly, in these cases, wherein High Court of Bombay restrained Future Consumer Limited from using deceptively similar trade dresses as to Monaco Krakow, Hide and Seek Peekaboo, and Crackjack Cracker King. Louis Vuitton versus Louis Vuitton DAC. Here, even though the respondent was a South Korean fried chicken fast food company, not into the business of baggages and which are similar to what Louis Vuitton is doing, but still the court held in favor of Louis Vuitton that the Louis Vuitton has gained an enormous reputation worldwide and it has become a secondary meaning in itself. So Louis Vuitton DAC should be fined and should be injuncted from using such name. Similar case was observed in Red Bull versus Bighorn. As Red Bull has a very wide reputation, it has gained a secondary meaning and it is a well-known trademark. So Bighorn was refused from being used. Similar view was in Zara Foods versus Zara Fashion. All are underlying under same conceptual principle that a particular mark, if it is a well-known mark, if it has gained a sufficient enormous amount of reputation in the market and it has gained a secondary meaning to itself, then the other mark should be better not registered and an action should lie against them. But although in this present case, the picture was otherwise, that Big Basket filed for injunction against Daily Basket, but it was unsuccessful in contesting that allegation, as the court held that big or basket is a very descriptive word and any person would be into such business can use such words, and it is not that the marks are similar, the marks are completely different from each other, so no intelligible person would be in the confusion of the same. This was a very latest infringement suit filed by Oreo, wherein Mondale International is the company, and the trade dress where Parle Fabio is similar to what Oreo is. The interim injunction has been granted in the present case, but the final decree is yet to come, so it is still pending in the court. Similar view was expressed in this case. The Britannia was not given a protection in its trade dress NutriChoice, as Sunfeast had certain different elements in its packaging. You can easily see that 5C digestive, there are certain ingredients provided upon its label, which are not similar to what the plaintiff's mark is. So the High Court rejected the claim of Britannia. Further, in Starbucks Corporation versus Sardar Baksh Coffee and Co. Here, the defendants had started using its mark, Sardar Baksh, in various outlets, in just 2 outlets, but it was to start manufacturing and start using such mark in other 20 upcoming outlets. So Starbucks is a well-known mark, and it claimed that nobody can use such similar descriptive words and similar trade dress to what Starbucks is. But the court was of the opinion that Starbucks would be allowed to use such mark into 2 already existing outlets, but not to use such mark in the other upcoming 20. And Sardar Bucks accordingly changed its logo for the upcoming 20. Now, this was the case which I was talking about in my previous slide, wherein the PayPal had filed for infringement against Paytm of copying of similar trade dress, trade description, even the kind of services which they are into are also similar and identical. But the court was a different opinion that till that time, it was a time when demonetization was announced. And for that period, Paytm had gained an enormous reputation all along India, and there were many users to it. And it was the case wherein a secondary meaning to Paytm had developed overnight, and not by constant development, but at an overnight. So this was the case which I was talking about the secondary meaning which would be adopted overnight. Similar picture was being portrayed by the court in Big Tree Entertainment versus D Sharma, wherein Book My Show had claimed injunction against Book My Event, wherein it claimed its proprietorship upon the word Book My. But the court found that Book My cannot be an exclusive right of Book My Show, and looking at both the labels, there is no similarity which could lie, and so the claim of Book My Show was rejected. Now, a very brief understanding of how to file an application, what consideration should be kept into the mind before filing of an application for registration of trademark is to be seen. I'll just give a brief idea. There is a public search which can be performed on the portal of the registry, wherein there are total 45 classes wherein goods and services are differentiated in what class we want to register is an essential task to be decided before public search is conducted. Once a particular class is decided, we would search for other descriptive already existing applied or registered marks in the trademark registry, uh, and comparing it with ours, so that we can get a brief idea as to what percentage or what is the degree of our mark to get registered. If at all, upon filing an application, if the registrar finds that the mark should be objected under section 9 or section 11, it would publish an objection to the application, wherein we would be given a 30 days time period to file and reply to an examination report. The objection is called an examination report. And further, upon consideration of the reply, if the registrar finds that our mark is capable of getting registered, he would accept the mark and get it published in the trademark journal. But if it is rejected, then a hearing would be given to us. Now, once it is accepted and published in the trademark journal, you would not know that a trademark journal is published every week, and all those applications which are accepted and published in a particular week would be published on the site of trademark, and there is a PDF folder of the journal, and the other existing marks would scrutinize each and every applied marks and look for oppositions. That is the factor. So 4 months period is given to the already existing marks for opposing a particular application. And if at all there is no opposition against R mark, such R mark would be accepted and would be registered on the registry. But if at all an opposition is filed, there is altogether a separate proceedings which is between bi-parte, the opposite party and us. There is a total different procedure adopted, wherein evidences are reduced and replies and counter statements are filed, and subsequently a hearing is conducted before the trademark registry. So this was a chart. This what depicts what I have said. This is a chart depicting the same. Now there are certain examples wherein a already existent company have to evolve as per the market sentiments and the society at large. Here, Hindustan Unilever, having Fair and Lovely brand at a very reputed level, had to change its name from Fair and Lovely to Glow and Lovely for the kind reason that the Fair and Lovely mark was criticized on the basis of it being racist, and it associated beauty as fair. So it changed its trade name to Glow and Lovely. And this was a practice wherein dishonesty was adopted by Patanjali, wherein it claimed that coronal tablets are a cure for coronavirus. But subsequently, it had to change its purpose, and it stated that it is an immunity booster. PepsiCo versus Aqua Mineral, wherein Aquafin was being used by the defendants, but plaintiffs claim that they are a well-known mark and Aquafina is their product. So a protection was granted to the plaintiffs. Now everybody would be knowing that in Starbucks, the cup sizes are this wise, that tall, grand, and venti. But you would be surprised to know that Starbucks owns all the trademark rights over all these words, and they are the owners of these marks, such as tall, grand, and venti, and nobody can use such names in their products apart from Starbucks. So this was a very brief introduction to what trademark law is, what are certain practices, and I keep the floor open for question answers if anybody wishes to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Advocate David, sir. Thank you so much. Now I would request all the participants to drop their name and email ID for the certificates and to even ask the questions. We have a question from Aditi. What is the difference between trademark cancellation and invalidation?
See, a trademark can be cancelled on several grounds. A cancellation can be taken place when a particular mark is registered, and if I have not complied to certain procedural aspects which has been asked by the registry, my mark could be under cancellation. Or if at all a rectification proceedings has been filed by a third party to my registered trademark, and if I do not succeed in that proceeding, my mark would be cancelled. Although there is no asset difference between a cancellation and the other, there is no difference actually.
Thank you. The other question is from Paul. What are the monopoly licensing, exclusive licensing, and general licensing of trademarks?
This is a very detailed subject wherein a license is given to a licensee to use my product in the channel of distribution and channel of trade, wherein it is this question is very detailed, and so I wish to answer this question in person. If it's better that it was a very descriptive one. That is why, if I could answer in writing.
Sure, sir. Another question from Vidata. What is parallel importing?
Parallel importing, I beg that I don't know this answer, but I'll definitely get back to that perspective in a mail explanation. I'm sorry for that, but I'm not aware about this.
Another question from Nilang. Any views on tackling the challenge of cyber squatting?
Because of the globalization and lots of trademarks are being used across the globe, and there is a digitization procedure all across. So cyber squatting is a very common phenomenon being observed with regards to trademarks law, and uh, it is very important for a trademark to be protected from such cyber squatting. And in fact, there is a IT law which is prevalent in this country, but it does not specifically deals with trademark infringements. But anyway, there could be a chance where certain amendments could be brought into in the Trademarks Act as well, and Data Protection Act bill is already in process. So there should be a protection against such practices.
Thank you so much, sir. Do we have any other questions from the participants? Okay. On the behalf of Student Governing Council, I will really thank Divit sir for accepting the proposal and being a part of the session. For the vote of thanks, I would like to invite Professor Shruth sir and to continue his speech. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Anshumi. I beg pardon for and I apologize for the connectivity issues I have had. So I was welcoming Divij. It's of course it's a matter of proud for any faculty, any professor to see their students next to them. And today is that day when I'm seeing Divij next to me delivering delivering some technical aspects or practical knowledge that he has gained within this 1 year from passing out in 2020 to this 2021. So I'm really glad to see him here and addressing all the questions amazingly and delivering this topic. So without further ado, since I have to thank everyone, on behalf of United World School of Law, Karnavati University, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Advocate Divij Mehta for enlightening all the participants with his words of scholarship. We are also grateful to Dr. Shruti Chaudhary, Head of KU Alumni Department, for bestowing best support for smooth conduction of this session. And I'm indeed thankful to KU Student Governing Council and all its student members who have showcased their support, best efforts for conduction of the sessions, different sessions of IP Awareness Week. And of course, last but not the least, all the participants who participated in this different sessions of IP Awareness Week. Thank you so much to everyone. And I'm also equally thankful to Akshat and Josh for being amazing participants today, for all the comments they have dropped in, and for participating in this IP Awareness Week. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the questions being asked, but I assure that each and every question would be answered. The two questions which I missed from answering, I'll definitely answer that.
Yes, those were the detailed questions, I guess.
Yeah, it was a detailed question. That is why.
Yes. So we can cover it maybe a little later in the advanced session.
Definitely.
Yes. Shruti ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shruth sir. And thank you everyone who all are here today. And special thanks to Divij, Desh and Akshat. I really look forward next time, Jesh and Akshat, we will conduct your session so that Divij can enjoy you as an audience, right?
Definitely.
And we can invite more alumni on this platform. And it's always good to see, student governing council body to work on this, the way you all are working, the way efforts you all are putting here. It's really amazing. And the way all the faculties is organizing this IP Awareness Week, I really, my heartfelt gratitude to all the team. Shruth sir and team, please take my congratulations for a successful event. And Divij, I just got to know you just recovered from the COVID, and please take my wishes, recover from your, health wherever you feel. Please just let us know. Our platform is for all the students and especially for the alumni, so that we can give you such home like feeling over here, right? So please fill the gap wherever you feel you are not able to connect with your juniors, your ex faculties. So this platform is to giving you chance where you can connect again come
Yeah.
back to your old days, old memories. You
Definitely.
can connect with
Definitely.
your juniors, right? And we are really looking forward for you.
Definitely.
My complete
Definitely.
department
Thanks a lot,
is
ma'am.
for you guys, so I can fill the bridge between you and the university. So please allow me to fill that bridge, and wherever you feel, we can, conduct a various sessions for you guys. And thank you so much for all
Definitely.
the audience. Though I always requested you guys, please show me your beautiful faces and handsome faces, but I don't know why you all are facing so shy. But next time, maybe when we are interacting in person, we are able to see each other in person. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Anshumani, for having such an patience and organizing this event.
Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
Thank you
lot.
so much.
I would request the participants if they can turn on their cameras for the screenshot. And if anyone is left to drop their name or email ID, please do that. Thank you so much, Josh Thakkar, Akshat Sir, Rahul Bhavsar, Sagar Modi for participating in this session. Student Governing Council.
Grateful. Grateful.
Thank you. And Divij, take care if that's true. I
Definitely,
thought that
sir.
Akshat is just
No.
like, pulling your leg in between. But then if that's true,
No, it
please
has
take
been
care of yourself.
it has been time since I have recovered, but still
Okay.
I respect
Okay.
Akshat.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
Thank you so
understand
much,
that
Divij
this
sir.
is the tough time for everybody. Even somehow
True.
everybody is facing this issue. So we
True.
have to be with each other and support each other in this tough time.
Exactly.
That's the only
The
way to
mental
come out.
health is very important in this
Very
situation.
important.
Very
Yes,
important.
definitely. And the thanks to this Zoom technology, we are in the world
Yeah,
where we can connect with each other. If we look to what
exactly.
50 years back, there we don't get the chance to
Don't
interact with
get the
each other.
chance.
But
True.
now we
True.
are completely privileged. We can use this
True.
technology. So
True.
meet often, show your faces
Definitely,
so
ma'am.
that we can
Definitely.
meet virtually. Thank you so much, Shruth sir.
Definitely. Thank you so
Thanks a
much
Thank
for
lot.
you.
giving me this opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks a
so
lot,
much. We'll end the
everyone.
session here. Thank you, ma'am. We'll end the session here. I'll request the participants to please drop their name and email ID if they have left. Thank you so much, David sir, for being a part of
Thank you
this.
so much. Thank you.
Perfect.
I'm grateful.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much,
Thanks,
Shruth sir.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes, sir, you
Anshumi,
can leave the session.
okay. Please take care of the
I'll take care of
participants
that.
and everything,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.